Welcome to the SHINEcast podcast, where we broadcast our thoughts and feelings. I'm Tanya.
I'm Itzel.
Today, we're going to be covering a bit of a heavier topic, which is eating disorders. And it's really important to take this subject seriously and discuss it here today because it's something that's really impacting our youth right now. And we see it everywhere, or we don't see it everywhere, but it's here and it's present. And we just have to be mindful of how we treat others and how we address these issues at hand. And if you find yourself relating to any of the symptoms we're going to be discussing today, please don't be scared to reach out for help and take away what you will from this episode, because I hope you guys find a lot of healthy coping mechanisms in today's episode. So Jessie is a specialist and nutritionist in food, and she has her very own practice here in Napa County. So first off, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, Jessie?
Hi, yes, I'm so excited to be here. My name is Jessie. My pronouns are she, her, and I am a registered dietitian. I do have my own group practice that I'm a part of here in Napa. There's 8 of us dietitians now, and what we do is we specialize in relationship with food, relationship and body, and I know we'll get a little bit more later to some of the work that I do directly with clients, but yeah, I've been a dietitian for over 10 years. I used to work at the local clinic, and I'm just thankful to be here.
Well, it's great to have you. So we thought we should start off by giving a brief description on the different types of eating disorders, because I know, at least from a student perspective, I hear a lot about anorexia and bulimia, but not about other ones like pica or restrictive avoidant and such. So could you please give us a brief description about those?
I'm so impressed that you looked those up. Those are some pretty obscure ones. Like the pica is one if you're eating dirt or lead, or you have cravings that you can't control. Sometimes we see it in pregnancy when people have weird cravings, but there can be types of eating disorders like that. All of the eating disorders that you mentioned, like anorexia, bulimia, ARFID or avoidant food restrictive disorder, rumination was another one on the list that you sent me. Those are clinically defined by the DSM-5, which is a diagnostic tool that therapists and doctors use to classify certain eating disorders so that they can create a treatment plan. Now, there's also an eating disorder called non-specified, an eating disorder non-specified. It's kind of a catch-all for the other types of eating disorders. Mm-hmm. Basically, an eating disorder has no look. You can't look at someone and tell that they have an eating disorder. People will often think anorexia. I assume someone's just going to be all bones, or you can visually see that they're malnourished. But in general, we can't see them. And so that diagnostic tool has different criteria for behaviors that we would have to meet. And I think the biggest thing that I want to say on this is, again, that eating disorders have no look, and that weight and BMI are no longer a criteria to qualify as an eating disorder. So they can happen in any age, size, body, and they would be certain behaviors that would fall under each category.
Yeah. And I would definitely say that's a really big stigma that I see, that they're like, oh, you can't have an eating disorder if you don't look a certain way. But in reality, there's a lot of different ways that you can look.
Oh my gosh, yeah, they stay so hidden. Eating disorders actually prefer to be in the dark and have no one know about them, so they can just live and thrive in secret. So that was, I know, one of the things we were going to talk about was stigma, and that's a big one.
Yes. But I would like to ask you, what are some of the main contributing factors in most of your clients that you see regularly?
Oh my goodness. So I work with a lot of teenagers here in Napa, and the contributing factor for teens, because I want to speak directly with your listeners, so social media is a big one. Whenever I ask my teens, it's social media is contributing to how they feel about their body, influencing the way that they think they should eat. Diet culture is really loud. Have you all heard of diet culture?
Yes.
You're like, how could I have not heard of diet culture? It's everywhere.
It's huge right now.
Yeah, so that is a big contributing factor. Eating disorder rates have doubled in the past 10 years and really peaked during COVID. That's when I started my practice, because we were all home and anxious and stressed and had nothing else to do but maybe body check in the mirror or start a diet or start to, be a really easy way for us to get obsessed over our food. One thing that I wanted to say before even going into that is there's also disordered eating and eating disorders, right? So disordered eating can be a bunch of behaviors. So someone could have an eating disorder and do disordered eating behaviors. But you could also just have disordered eating without the eating disorder yet. And having disordered eating can put you at risk for an eating disorder. So some examples of disordered eating might be counting calories, skipping meals, feeling guilty after you eat, wanting to exercise off everything you ate. And so actually a lot of the work that I'll do with teenagers is with disordered eating and hoping that it doesn't turn into a full psychiatric disease. Because what happens when it turns into anorexia or bulimia or any other type of eating disorder is our brain changes, literally. We have different brain pathways than we normally would with our relationship with food. Like normally food we eat and it makes us feel good, right? Like, ooh, that was so delicious, I feel full.
Yeah.
Someone with an eating disorder might eat and just feel like fear hormones, like feel really scared. And that's not normal, right? We're supposed to eat and like get some serotonin.
Wow, that's really interesting. I actually did not know that about the two things. But yeah, I feel like some of the symptoms you like mentioned for disordered eating, I see very frequently, and it's just not talked about enough. So what are some things that you like look for when you're like trying to identify if one of your friends or someone you love might be experiencing an eating disorder?
Yeah, because you can't just look at them and know, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, this gets tricky if it's like a friend or a loved one, because the eating disorder will want to hide and people will feel a lot of shame around the eating disorder. And so it can be a really vulnerable topic to talk about. I think for someone who is struggling or listening to this, some of the signs will definitely be feeling guilty after you eat. Maybe you're feeling guilty every time you eat. Another sign could be, like obsessed with counting calories. One of the things that I will ask my clients is what percentage of the day are you thinking about this topic? Your body size, food. A lot of my clients will be like, what do you mean? I think about it all day. Like it's constant. And we really only want to be thinking about what we're going to eat like 30% of the day. Like it shouldn't really take up that much of our brain space, despite what social media wants us to do is like constantly be thinking about what you eat in a day. But so that's a big one. That's a big one of if you're feeling like super preoccupied with body size and food and you're stressed about it and you're thinking about it all the time, that can be a pretty big indicator.
What is nutrition therapy and how does that work?
Okay, good question. We're jumping right into it. Nutrition therapy. So it's like kind of in the name where it's therapy. People are very familiar with going to see a therapist and sitting and talking about feelings and barriers, right? So we do that, but for food. So it is one-on-one counseling. Our sessions are a little over 50 minutes, and we will talk about relationship with food, relationship with body. We'll talk about anything and everything. It's very individualized. So maybe we'll be learning about, as we're changing our relationship with food, maybe we'll be learning about fiber in a new way instead of just being told to eat fiber to shrink your body. I'm like, no. What does fiber actually do in our body? Let's learn about this in a healthy way. In terms of for recovery, like if it's like specifically for an eating disorder, it might look a little bit different. Like we might be talking about some very uncomfortable topics, right? We might be doing some exposures or talking about body image or talking about ways that we can get more food in the day.
Definitely. And also, you mentioned how like eating disorders can cause like a variety of different things. Like it can affect how your brain perceives food and make it like something to be fearful of. So like, what do you think is the importance of having a balanced diet beside the obvious? Like what are some of the like really things that nobody talks about?
I love this question, like the balanced diet and mental health piece. This was one of the reasons why I wanted to be a dietitian, was because of that connection for mental health. And there are some nutrients that are super important for our mental health in general, like vitamin B12, protein, but there's also our eating pattern. Like eating consistently throughout the day can support our blood sugar and make us feel less anxious. It can help us feel more focused. It can help support our mood. You guys have heard of serotonin if you've been talking about mental health all year, right? Yeah. So in order to make serotonin, our body needs certain foods, certain proteins called tryptophan. And in order for that serotonin to get from our gut to our brain, we need to eat carbs. So you can see how if someone's doing disordered eating and cutting out entire food groups or skipping meals, that can make them feel more depressed, more anxious, and really, really contribute to mental health.
Well, thank you. Also,
Yeah.
it sounded like from your description of like nutrition therapy, a lot of it is based on like educating people about like food and like what's good for you and what's not. But like, what would you say is best for someone that's like really struggling? Like they don't want to listen. They're just like in a really bad headspace, like other types of therapies that may work for them?
So some of it is education, right? Like learning around food.
Mm-hmm.
I would say maybe we're doing that like 20% of the time. The other part of the time is we're talking about maybe a tough experience that we had with food in the week, right? Like maybe a friend made a comment or a parent made a comment of like, oh my gosh, you ate that much. And we're going to talk about how that made you feel, how that made you want to restrict, and kind of like digging into that. That would be some of the piece of work that we would be doing in nutrition therapy. So, and the other thing is for someone who's in a space where it's like, I can't even talk about food. This is too much. Maybe some of the work that we'll do is we'll go through their social media and let's kind of do a little social media detox, and let's get rid of some of the what do I eat in a day and before and after pictures, and let's start following body positive people and non-diet nutrition information. So it's very individualized, and we really meet people where they are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's kind of in our name, and As You Are Nutrition is we're not gonna talk at someone or be condescending or come in and try to be the expert. You all are the expert of your own body. No one knows how it feels to be in your body but you. And so as a clinician, I'm looking for you for the answers. I'm not trying to come at them and tell you them.
That's really great, because I feel like there's, every person's case is unique. And even though they can be classified as like, oh, all these people have the same eating disorder, it really is different for everyone.
Totally.
Completely different. So how would you approach like meal planning typically with a patient?
So if a patient's in recovery, the way that I like to explain meal planning is to think about it. Think of the eating disorder as if you had like a broken arm. Okay, like something's wrong, something's broken.
Mm-hmm.
So when your arm is broken, you're not going to be playing tennis, or you're not going to be skateboarding. You're not going to be doing your normal activities,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you're maybe going to have to wear a cast or a brace that's going to be really uncomfortable, and you're not going to be able to use your arm the same way. So with food, we would use a meal plan. So a meal plan isn't going to be comfortable because it might involve eating when we're not hungry and forcing ourselves to eat because we have to, because our hunger has shut down and we got to wake it back up. And we're not going to be able to do our normal stuff. Maybe we're not going to be able to go as long without eating because we know we need to eat. So I picture the meal plan, it's called the nutrition rehab phase, or nutrition rehabilitation. So if you're going to PT and you're wearing a brace or a cast, it's not comfortable and it's temporary. So the meal plan section of recovering from an eating disorder is temporary. The long-term goal is to get to intuitive eating, and you're listening to your body and you're doing flexibility and you're giving yourself permission to eat, and it's not taking over your whole life. Right? But in this phase where we have to do nutrition rehab and we just have to refeed your brain, it's going to feel uncomfortable because it's going to feel like you're eating all the time. Fullness is going to be uncomfortable, and we just got to get the food back in you.
And how would you say you can avoid relapses?
I love this question. With eating disorders, it's a little bit different than substance abuse. Substance abuse is very black and white.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're either, clean and sober, or you had a little bit of something. Eating disorder is a little bit different because we have to eat every day. We can't avoid it, right? And what I want to say about this journey is that a relapse isn't really a step backwards. It's part of the journey. So if you're, going on your recovery and you've been following your meal plan, and then you have a bad weekend and you don't eat for a couple meals, or, maybe you stop eating for a week, it doesn't necessarily mean a relapse. It means that the eating disorder is trying to morph and change and stay alive while we're doing treatment. So it just is another opportunity for us to see what's going on underneath. I think one main thing that I wanted to say is the eating disorder is tricky. So what it does is it covers up something underneath. So maybe there's trauma or sadness or anger or feeling of like worthiness that isn't there. The eating disorder, the brain's going to be like, ooh, don't think about all those uncomfortable feelings. Let's think about this. Why don't you shrink your body and that'll help? Why don't you stop eating and that'll help so you don't have to feel all these feelings? And so the eating disorder, what I do as the dietitian is I pull back, we put them on a meal plan, we nourish the brain, and then the therapist we can sit with those uncomfortable feelings. Mm-hmm. So if all of a sudden the eating disorder comes back and wants to cover it up, it's okay. It doesn't mean that it's a relapse or that you failed or anything like that. It's just another opportunity to see what's going on underneath.
Yeah.
I really like that you mentioned that because I know, I've read Jeanette McCurdy's book. I don't know if you've heard about her. She had an eating disorder as like a Disney star. And as I was reading the book, she talked about how it took her so long to recover because she viewed relapses as like, oh, I failed. I'm never going to be able to successfully like go through this. And so it just kind of set her back. So having that mentality that like one bad day isn't going to define you or your journey or all the progress you've made.
No, you don't have to start over counting your days of recovery. Like it's not like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How can you support a family member or a friend struggling with an eating disorder?
This is such a good question, and I'm sure a lot of my clients that have struggled would want their family members and friends to know the answer to this question. And I think the biggest thing that I hear from my clients is to not make any food or body comments. No, like, oh, you're looking great. That can mean so many things to something with an eating disorder of like, oh my gosh, that means that I'm large or I'm gaining weight, or the brain can just grab a very like innocent question and just run off with it. So no body comments, no food comments. I think that's like probably the best thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that I would recommend is just be a distraction during mealtime, maybe. So if a friend needs someone to distract them while they're eating because they've got to get their meal plan in, like don't talk about food. See if you can talk about something funny or be on the phone or watch a movie together while they need to eat. Like just being with them and not making it weird, not making it a big deal, not saying like, well, why can't you just eat? Or are you better yet? You know, those comments can come from a really good place where you're like, you really are concerned about your friend or your loved one, but eating disorders just can be so tricky.
And it's great that you mentioned that because I do definitely think that when you have someone with an eating disorder, they can take things and really take it to heart. Like the comment about you look nice, they might actually take it as like, oh, this is working. I need to keep on, like use it as fuel, as motivation.
Oh
you know?
my gosh, yeah. If you're like, oh my gosh, you look great. Like, have you lost weight? Like we don't, in our culture, unfortunately, like weight loss is seen as a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very harmful. And I'm hoping that the world can change and stop viewing things that way. But, yeah, you're totally right. It can like feed the eating disorder voice almost. And our brain lies to us. Our brain lies to us in many different mental illnesses, right?
Yeah.
But for sure in eating disorders. Yeah.
Well, I think you covered a lot of great stuff about like how nutrition therapy works. And I definitely think a lot of our viewers can take away from that. But like for anyone who might be scared to reach out and it's just like watching this video, hoping to find some advice, like what would you say are some baby steps they can take to start building that like healthy relationship with food?
Such a good question. I think the number one thing is to not be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to tell your doctor about the intrusive thoughts that you're having or your parents. Like I had said earlier, eating disorders thrive in the dark when no one knows about them. And so saying that you're struggling with throwing up after a meal to someone close to you, or saying that you're really afraid of calories, and like letting like either your therapist or your doctor or a counselor know about that so that they can know how to get you help. And that's so brave. Like it's really hard to do and to share those things because it's something that can feel so shameful, but that's like a baby step right there, is just like letting someone around you know what you're struggling with. And that it's okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I think that about covers it. And we hope that like our viewers from home can take away from this, learn to be mindful about their behaviors towards everyone, because you never know, like it does not have a look. But thank you so much, Jessie.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate having
You're
you here.
welcome. I think the last thing that I wanted to share is one of the questions you asked about the biggest barrier to care, and that's access and insurance coverage. Right? So
yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
A lot of eating disorder dietitians are cash pay only, or like in the mental health space, there's a lot of things that aren't covered by our insurance. So we do take partnership, we do take commercial insurance, and I think, you know, Mentis has a lot of really great resources on their website. We're on there as well. So I just wanted to touch on that because that can be really hard, especially as a teenager. You don't know anything about insurance or coverage or how to get help. So definitely asking your doctor would be a good place to start.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
to all our viewers, like Jessie said, don't be afraid to reach out because there will be help for you. Like I promise you that regardless of money, there has to be different solutions and resources out there. So just reach out if you're feeling like you need help.
Yeah.
But thank you so much.
Thank you.